on the plight of some Chinese foreign workers here who had been underpaid, or not paid, I guess, by their employers. And then to make matters worse, the Ministry of Manpower seemed to side with the employers rather than with the workers, as well as the ICA, right? They were detained and so on. And Alex got the story not by reading the mainstream press, but by actually doing his own reporting, going to a news conference held by these workers, looking at their documents and so on. Do you want to tell us more about that reporting side of it and why it's important?
Thank you. Well, the first thing that points out to you is that if you are anonymous, you can't go and attend a press conference. So if you want to do this kind of thing, you cannot be anonymous. What really happened was, in a nutshell, was that there were NGOs, non-government organizations. This is what I mean by being considerate to your audience again. Non-government organizations, NGOs, who go out to help foreign workers. And quite often when they, and then this was a particular case of like 200 Chinese workers from China who felt they were exploited by their bosses. And for about 2 months prior, have been making complaints to the Ministry of Manpower, MOM, about the salaries not being paid and so forth. At the end of the 2 months, at the end of 1 month grace period, the work permits would expire, so they could be deported without ever getting any money. So time was against them. The NGOs felt that the only way they could push the MOM, Ministry of Manpower, to do something fast would be to get some publicity for the plight of these workers. So they tried to engage the mainstream media, and at first they got very little sympathy. And they decided to call a press conference with the 4 workers who were still free as of that day. 2 would be arrested that the same evening or something like that, or the next day. But anyway, so there I was, and I was sitting next to the TNP reporter, and we reported it. Or rather, we took down the interview. And then I waited about 24 hours just to see what would happen in the mainstream media, because I really didn't want to write what the mainstream media would write. I want to add the stuff that they somehow would have left out of their report, that kind of thing. But nothing appeared. So I just went ahead and did it. And later on, I found out what happened. The mainstream media apparently have some policy whereby they have to write balanced news reports. Balanced, okay? You must have both sides of the story. That's called balanced, So when you talk to somebody who is, pro-racial integration, you must therefore have the racist speak.
He's being sarcastic, just in case you...
I thought I should wake up the audience. All right? Anyway, so they had to be balanced. So they had to contact the MOM, Ministry of Manpower, for their point of view before they could finish off the story. But the MOM stonewalled them. They just would not answer their queries. They would not, confirm the facts. So from the mainstream media's point of view, the story just couldn't come out. Well, I didn't know all that, and I was foolhardy and reckless and, totally irresponsible as a blogger without writing balanced stories. So I just published mine. And, the journalists were quite happy because they could go back to MOM and say, damn it, the story's already coming out without your point of view. So please, give us a comment now so that we can write our story, so at least your point of view would come out in a balanced story. And of course MOM had no choice but to do so. And the result was therefore that it's not really parasitic. This is one example where we were synergistic, because much as I was happy to be the first out with the news, I also recognize that a website has far less reach compared to the mainstream media. We're talking Channel 8 News, with TV cameras and all that, reaching 100,000 or so. So by kind of like opening the dam and letting the mainstream media get some response from the MOM and running their stories, I think we helped the workers a lot more, because within 24 hours, the problems were solved, or well, partially solved.
Just a comment on that. I guess the ability of bloggers to do that kind of thing, and even to achieve balance with the government's point of view, is limited from the fact that probably your queries or your request to attend press conferences would be quite limited compared with someone carrying an official MiCA press pass. So I take it you're not on the mailing list of government agencies organizing press conferences, despite your significant reach.
And I wouldn't want to put myself, in a situation where I'm bored to tears.
Which does raise a more important substantive point that I think one of the limiting factors for citizen journalism in Singapore is the lack of freedom of information legislation in Singapore. So in effect, as a result of that, it does mean that people who do carry an official press pass have better access to information than the ordinary citizen who may have quite legitimate reasons to ask for information. That's one respect in which Singapore is actually falling far behind not just the developed world, but even the developing world. It's one of the major innovations around the world is transparency laws, freedom of information laws that allow citizens to demand answers from the government. So that's, I think, a limiting factor for us. Turning to Cheng Si, maybe I could ask you to tell us more about how you went about reporting the recent AWARE EGM. And I think the difference is interesting because your thread is a one-man operation. In contrast, TOC was able to call on quite a number of unpaid volunteers. Right? Tell us how you did that, because it's certainly on that day, a few weekends ago, you were at least as timely, perhaps even more so than the mainstream press in terms of keeping Singaporeans informed on that Saturday about what's going on.
Yeah. First things first. The reason we put value on reporting, to quote something Tan Hao told me once, he said, opinions are free, facts are sacred. And in the course of our writing, we found that, if you are covering certain issues or certain events, you let the facts speak for themselves. And I think AWARE was one of those cases where the facts of what were going on were a lot more important than, a saturation of opinion on what was happening. So what we decided to do for AWARE was put all our chips in, meaning activate everyone on our team, as many people as we could on the team to go down. So we had something like 10 people inside the conference hall with videographers, 2 videographers, 2 photographers, 1 more person with handheld digital camera, different reporters catching on to different issues and taking note of different people putting across different points of view. And we had 1 person stationed outside the hall at Starbucks to upload, because there wasn't wireless in the hall. And periodically what we do is we send our photographers down to upload photos. And that's something I've realized is quite important when you're doing live reporting. It's the visuals of what's going on. So that's what we did for AWARE. And I think our edge came in the fact that this was one of those cases where press pass didn't help because the media was barred from going in. Initially, what they tried to do was eject anybody with DSLR, but we had 3 photographers running around, so after a while, security just stopped trying to evict us, and we got all the photo coverage that we wanted. And CNA was left doing coverage from outside the hall and doing shots of the inside, and I think Pearl Force was complaining bitterly about this on the news coverage. No, actually, the TNP did tell us they couldn't get photographers in, so they said if we want to buy your photos, can we let you know? I said sure.
I should add that in preparation for it, you all became members of AWARE, right? To
Oh, yeah.
guarantee yourself access. So it does require a certain forethought in how do you get to where the news is happening. It means spending $40 to become a member of AWARE.
Or 400 for guys, 10 guys, right? 400.
He's